Hello, welcome today to Kim's Bioproduction Academy. We are discussing today about the statistics formulas, and the first one that we will do is the coefficient of correlation. From the lower table, I have written NB. We have a table X. You have given some value of X and Y. You find X squared by squaring the X, then Y by squaring the Y. Then you have the XY. That's the total of the X and Y. You times them. Then you'll do their sum total for each and every value at the table. Then now you will find SSX, which will be equal to summation of that X square, that summation of the X square, you minus the summation of the X, you square, then you divide by N. N is the number of the values. Let's say in that table you have been given around 5 values. You divide by that 5. SSY now will be summation of y square. You minus summation of y. You do the square of the summation of y. You divide by n. SSXY will be equal to summation of xy. You minus summation of x times summation of y over n. Then now you find R, that is the coefficient of correlation, will be equal to the summation of what you find in SSXY, that's the sum total. You divide by the square root of summation of what you found in SSX, you multiply by SSY. That is where now you'll have completed finding your coefficient of correlation, and it should not be more than 1. 1 should be the highest number. Then you'll be told you find the equation of the correlation. That is y is equals to mx plus c, of which x is a constant, the c is the constant, then m is the slope of that curve, of which you now calculate that. So how do we find the mx? Your mx you'll find by, you do the sum total that you find in your SSXY, you divide by SSX. Then for the constant, how do we find our constant? You do the summation of the y, you divide by n, you subtract your mx, the value that you find in your mx, you multiply by the summation of x, you divide by the n. That is now, then you make your equation being y is equals to mx plus c from the value that you find in mx and then the value that you find in your c. The second one is the chi square, of which on the chi square you will be given some tabulated values, maybe doing some comparison of something, maybe based on region, based on a place. You'll be given some based on some samples. They'll be in rows and they'll be in columns. Let's say there are 4 persons doing the samples. That will make 4 of our columns. Then between maybe the rows, let's say you have been given around 5 regions, so that will make 5 of your columns. So what do? You take those tabulations or the data, then you record on your observed section. You just record all of them. If they were, let's say 4 persons with the 5 regions, so it means that's 5 by 4, you'll have to have around 20 observations. That is the first table, that is observation. The second is the expected. How do we find our expected value? So when we are finding the expected, you have columns and you have the rows. So you do the total of the columns first, you record. You do the totals of the column. We have the column and we have the rows totals. Then you have the sum of both the totals, of which the first total and the second total should give you an equal amount, which now you do the sum total from both, that is from the total of the rows and the total of the what? We're saying the total of the rows and the total of the columns. So you will get now expected values. Then the next table you do observed minus the expected. Next table you do again from each and every value, right? Then you do the observed minus the expected, you square. Then the last table you do the square of observed minus expected over the expected. From that point now you find the total of the last column and that is where you'll find your chi-square. After doing that, you find the degree of freedom. Your degree of freedom will be column minus 1 times row minus 1. Where did you find your column? Your columns is what it's talking about, maybe the persons. Let's say the persons were 4, so it will be 4 minus 1. Then the rows, we said maybe you are doing something of a continent, about counting something, maybe of a region. So if there were 5, let's say 5 minus 1. That's now where you get your degree of freedom. Then now you use the chi-square table to find your readings, and that is where you'll have completed finding your chi-square. Let's go to the Anova. So on the Anova, maybe you'll be given some values on a table, like I've indicated there, A, B, and C. So you'll do the next part now by filling some. You continue to do with the table. You find your A square. You square each and every value from A. Let's say if it was 1, 2, 3, and 4. You square first for the 1. You square for the 2. That is for A. Then you do again the same for the B. You square the B. Then for the C, you square again for the C. After doing all those ones, you find each and every of the table, each sum. So you'll find the sum total of A, sum total of B, C, A square, B square, and C square. So next point now, that's what we are speaking about. Find the sum of X, which is equals to A square plus B square plus C square. Sorry. You find the sum of A plus the sum of B plus the sum of C. Then you have now the sum of the X square, which will be, we do mean A square plus B square plus C square, the sum total. That is now you'll find what? X square. Then you have the SS, which equals to the total sum of the squares. That is the first for the X. You plus the sum total of X. We are saying what? The total sum of the squares, of which the total sum of the squares will be sum of X square. You plus the sum total of X, which will be sum total of X that's shown. You square it, you divide by the N. The N is the number. If let's say A were 5, B were 6, you find their total plus C. Let's say 5, 5, 5. That will be over 15. Then you find the group. How do we find the group? You do the sum of A, square them over N. You do again plus the sum of B, you square them over N. Sum of C is the same, square, you divide by N. Minus the sum total of all the total numbers, square it over N. What is this N that we are speaking about? For the first one, summation of A square over N, our N is the values, the data given. Let's say we have been given around 5 data set. Let's say 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8. Those 5, so it means it's a 5 data set. So it will be over 5. Maybe again for B, maybe you have been given 6. You do over 6. Then over N, the last one now, minus the sum total of numbers, that is over N, you do the N of all the total numbers. If A was 5, B was 6, so, and the other one was 5, that gives you what? Around 16. So it will be the sum total of the numbers over that 16. But now it's square. The last one is the easiest one, which is the mean, of which the mean, you just do the mean. That's the summation of, maybe you'll be given, maybe if you have been given for the group, you first find the midpoint, of which our midpoint will be which one? The upper class limit minus the lower class limit. Then you do over 2, and you record the data set as X. So when you're finding its mean, it's the summation of X over XF over summation of F. What is this X? X is what is your midpoint. F is your frequency. Then you again do the summation of the frequency. You'll have found your mean if in case it was a group. But if it was a direct one, you just do summation of X square over N. So your summation of X square is the sum total of the value given over the N, which is the total number of the data set or the group. Median, you arrange your data first in ascending or descending order. Then if it's an odd number, you do the median position. Then from the median position, that's where you read your median. So of which, how do we find it? You do for the odd N plus 1 over 2. Then if it's an even number arrangement of a data set, you do N over 2 and N over 2 plus 1. Then from that reading now, you read your value and you'll have found your median. Range, you just define your range by arranging the information in the data set in ascending and the descending order, then you minus the largest observation from the smallest observation. That is where you'll get your range. How do we find the standard deviation? For the standard deviation, you do the square root of the sum of f squared, that is frequency squared. You minus the sum of fx, that is the frequency and the data, that is the midpoint. You do the square root over n, which is the number. You divide the total over the n minus 1. Thank you, and subscribe to learn more based on the statistics. Thank you.